Welcome to the Marriage Puzzle Podcast with Julie and Thomas Hobby. We are marriage coaches who help couples with pain points about money, intimacy, and communication go from being overwhelmed to being secure in their marriage.
If this is your first time listening to us, thanks for checking out our podcast. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating and a review. Let's dive into this episode. Are you bored in your marriage? Sometimes things just start feeling stale, or you get bored, or you just feel like you're in a rut. And it's okay. That stuff happens sometimes. And we're here to help you through that. We're going to give you 5 reasons why this sometimes happens and some tips on how to break free from it.
The first reason you could be bored in your marriage is you've stopped asking your spouse questions. You've stopped learning new things about them. So, you marry your spouse because something fascinated you about them. But
there was something special.
Yeah, like you wanted to get married. And then time goes on and you could say like things changed and you get bored. But if you look at your life now versus 10 years ago, it's different, right? Like it should be different. And so is your spouse.
I guarantee it's different.
You should be growing or growing up, but so is your spouse. And so they've changed too. And you might think you know them, but you need to keep asking questions to learn something new about them as years, as months, as days go by. And so ways you can do that to not stay bored in your marriage is even daily, or I guess weekly it would be, ask them what was the best thing that happened this week? And what was the worst thing that happened? If you're just kind of stale on the conversation, those are good questions to ask.
Those are a couple simple, like beginner style questions to just kind of get the ball rolling. And you can then elaborate on those questions a little bit more. Like if I asked you what was the best thing that happened to you this week, you may have already told me that in the course of our conversation throughout the week. But you would have told me about it more so in real time, just as a story. But then when you think back about what was the best thing that happened, you'll pick that out as the best thing. And then I'll be able to just say, tell me why it was the best thing. Mm-hmm. And you will elaborate on that in a different way than you did earlier in the week, which might give me a way to learn something new about you.
Yeah, I think asking questions, again, you think you know your spouse, but Thomas and I have been married for over 15 and a half years. It'll be 16 years this September. And we've still invested in these like conversation starter cards. They're out there. A lot of companies, a lot of people create them. Mm-hmm. And you might think of that as like, oh, that's just a silly icebreaker at a game or a group game at a party. I meant to say an icebreaker game that you would play at a party or getting to know a new friend. Mm-hmm. And you probably think that's silly to do with your spouse. But when we did that, we didn't go through the whole deck one night, just a few cards over dinner or here and there. It really helps us keep getting to know each other or spark memories or conversations. And that's why we didn't go through the whole deck, because like you said, you just kind of ask a question that sparks another question and so forth. And before you know it, you can engage again in these deep conversations with your spouse, and you feel like you're getting to know a new friend, a new person, mm-hmm. but then it's not boring.
Yeah, well, I mean, something to think about is, in reality, all of us are probably a little different today than we were yesterday. And if that's the case, there may be something new today that you didn't know yesterday. And so asking these questions and always trying to dig a little deeper and find something new is really important to keep the ball rolling and keep the boredom away. And these are just some simple steps on how to start. If you're in that rut, if you're starting to feel bored, we're just trying to get you going in the right direction to start asking those questions and keep getting to know your spouse a little better.
Yeah, and then the last tip we would give on this first reason of why you might be bored in your marriage is something we've mentioned before on other episodes, but to keep a talk list. Mm-hmm. We'd encourage you to start with this like weekly talk, but you could get to it, daily too, at whatever your capacity is. But Something that's different than the just common coming and going schedule talk.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, bye, how was your day? Did you get your lunch? Did you bring your lunch? But just as you're either at work, at home, whatever your routine is, think of things to tell your spouse or think of things to ask your spouse, like we said, and make a list. We do this, Thomas and I, in our phone, and then we share that list so he can see it and kind of spark the conversation. Hey, I saw you added this to our talk list. Tell me about that. Or I can remember. And we had to schedule that talk time for us to get in that habit. But now it just kind of comes naturally that whenever we have that little moment, usually it's like in the car for driving, we don't know what to talk about. It's like, hey, pull up the talk list. What do we have here? And that keeps us engaged in what's going on in each other's life, kind of getting to know each other, but also keeps us talking instead of tuning out, doing our own thing and getting bored.
Yeah, it's a really great list or great tip for multiple reasons. One, a lot of times just in our daily routine, we can forget what we wanted to talk to our spouse about. So you can think, oh, I can't wait to tell Julie that. And then by the time we get around to talking about it, so many things have happened. It's just gone from my memory and it just never comes back up again. So helping you remember is one reason, but to really kind of just keep spurring on that conversation and to always have something to talk about, because the list will likely keep growing. I mean, in the beginning, you may feel like you're going to get through everything, but I would imagine you probably won't. You'll probably surprise yourself and think that and see there's a lot more that you'll be able to keep adding to that list to keep the conversation going.
Yeah.
The second reason that things tend to start feeling stale or you start to feel that boredom feeling coming on is you don't know each other's love languages. And, we talk about this quite often, so we're just going to run through these pretty quickly. The 5 love languages are quality time, physical touch, gifts, words of affirmation, and acts of service. And there could be a few things here. You either don't know them, you don't know your spouse's, you don't know your own. They may have changed over time. I know mine has changed over time, and or you haven't discussed it with your spouse. So maybe you know each other's love language, but you haven't asked them, what are some things that I can do in your love language that will that you'll feel loved? So for acts of service, it could be doing a certain chore or something like that. But quality time, make sure you give me 30 minutes of uninterrupted talk time. So something like that, asking your spouse how they can feel loved in their love language, so you can start to pinpoint that and hit it. And, again, be careful though, if you just keep doing that same thing, you could return right back to this boredom phase, but go back to the one we just talked about. Keep talking and learning about your spouse, and you can develop those new ways to show them love in their love language.
And I think a lot of couples overlook this because, like you said, they don't know, or they're like, yep, been there, done that, took that 5 years ago. This is what it is. And then what you said, like, have you discussed it with your spouse? Because if you're not familiar with the love languages, you are going to tend to show your spouse love the way you actually want to receive love. And then that's where conflict comes in, because you think you're loving them and showing them, but they're not, their tank's not getting full.
You could be showing them love on a level 10 for you, but it could be a level 1 for them.
And then vice versa. And so I think discovering it's not just so that you know the information, it's something that you guys get to discuss together and learn about each other, and then go further than just knowing what, like mine's words of affirmation. Thomas has asked me, it's been a learning, like years of learning. Okay, so is that this? Is that if I do this or say this, am I doing it right? Is that words of affirmation? Or, there's so many even Instagram accounts and like books out there, whatever, just dive in. It literally can give you ideas of how to show your spouse's love language toward them. That's the key here.
Yeah. Not just knowing your own, but knowing your spouse's.
Yeah. Then the third reason that we were going to talk about with why you might be bored is you can get stuck in a daily routine. If you've been married for a while, I'd say routines are great. It keeps your life on track.
My wife thrives on
It's
routines.
like, I like routine, but you have to know that routines may not be friendly for your marriage. You feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again. You might need to find a new way to change it up for the sake of your relationship. And so, you kind of said this with like acts of service. Maybe one of the things you could change up is do one of your spouse's chores for the week.
Yeah, just randomly, not necessarily talking to them about it, but just figure out something they do. I'm going to do that for them this week, and just kind of switch it up. You can also discuss it and say, hey, let's trade 2 chores this week so that we're doing something for each other, and then you kind of it will naturally change it up. You'll get into the other person's shoes a little bit and see what they're doing. That's definitely a good way to help cure boredom. You could also just try something new in the bedroom.
Spice it up there.
Yeah.
I'll just say, most people will say spice it up in the bedroom, but I'm like, oh, spice it up in the house, the housework, the chores. But yeah, I'll echo that of try something new in the bedroom, or you might need to just get back to the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's cliche, but that could be a whole nother episode.
And it probably will.
Yeah. Like bored in your, sex life in your marriage, but it could start there. And it could start with chores. It could start with chores and end in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the last tip we have on this one is maybe take a staycation day together. So both of you take a day off from work, and find something to do together just for the whole day. But this one's tricky. You got to set some ground rules for this one. So you probably want to make sure that you're not doing chores on this day. You're not running errands on this day or anything like that. Just time together. So maybe you put it in your budget that you're going to eat out all 3 meals that day. And that's okay if you want to do that. That way you're getting different experiences, or you want to go and do shopping or something, but find some little things that you can do in this day and just enjoy the day together, because that will be a hard stop change of pace from your daily routine of going to work every day.
Yeah, I think people take time off for vacation. So, probably a week at a time, at least, at family vacation, or if they're sick and they probably don't think of I don't have a reason just to take off and spend time with my spouse.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're listening to this episode the week that it actually aired live, and you have school-age children, you probably have one more week if you can pull this off with your job, but may not be. You might need to plan ahead into the next school year. But I was going to say you have one more week to take some time off, just you and your spouse, while your kids are still in school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that Thomas and I've really enjoyed. We've gone up to a theme park for a few hours, or got lunch together or something, and it just gets us out of that daily routine, and doesn't have to be an evening romantic getaway, just to have a fun day together.
Yeah. And the 4th reason is that sometimes you think just being together is the same thing as spending quality time together. And this can look a lot of different ways. It could be that, if you have kids, it could be that you only spend family time together and you don't separate any time out just for couple time, which is vital in that scenario.
Right.
It could be that, maybe you don't have kids and you're just choosing to eat out most meals so that you don't have to cook, which can be okay, but it makes it turn into just a routine. Okay, if you're cooking at home every night, that's your thing. If you're going out to eat instead of cooking at home, it's kind of the same thing. Like, you're just doing it because you have to get it done, versus planned date night. So you have to figure out how to differentiate. Like, if you're choosing to go out to eat at every meal, that's your own choice, but you have to figure out what's the dividing line between this is just a routine everyday dinner or meal versus this is an actual date. How do you differentiate that? Maybe that's how you dress up for it to go out for a date or something like that. So you have to figure out how to break that routine a
Or
little
do
bit.
something else with it. Like we try to,
Right.
know, most of our dates we have to eat because of the time if we get a sitter and we go out. But we're usually then doing something else, whether it's dinner and dessert, when we try to go somewhere different for dessert.
Right.
Or a walk or another activity.
Or
that
a
makes it
movie,
more,
yeah.
like a date than just like, oh, we just went to dinner because we had to eat.
Yeah. The other thing is this could also just be the opposite of having a date night. Could just be you're just hanging out at home. You just get stuck in the routine of, you're just spending time together, but you just stay at home every night and you just sit on the couch and watch TV. And that's okay a lot of nights, but you still have to take that extra step sometimes and differentiate spending time together, just hanging out on the couch, and do something different. You can stay at home, but figure out how to do something different. Play a game, look up something to talk about, watch a YouTube video and learn something new or something like that. Just find something to break that habit so that it actually turns into quality time together, not just time together.
And then the last reason why we think you could be bored in your marriage is, frankly, you have a false sense of reality. There's so many like influencers out there, just things at our fingertips, that it's easy to start looking at your relationship with your spouse through the lens of someone else that we either follow on social media or a reality show we watch. I was just telling Thomas before we hit record, like, reality shows have been around for a long time. Even, love reality shows if you've watched Bachelor or Bachelorette. But there are so many more coming out, even just Netflix and stuff, that I'm like, it's just what's out there. It's kind of normal to see these false relationships and quick relationships and reality that maybe we know that you're watching a reality show, but when you're watching it, you can get so sucked into being like, my spouse isn't like that, or I wish someone said that to me or did that or treated me that way, and it makes me laugh. but
your spouse doesn't have a personal writer or an unlimited budget or anything like that.
And an editor telling them maybe what they're supposed to say, but or editing the awkward parts out. And that's why I'm like, I think we deep down know that it's not real. But yet if we allow, and I'm not saying ban yourself from them, but you just have to like put the lens on and not compare you and your spouse to what you're watching or what you're scrolling past.
Right.
And so you really need to recalibrate your lens to be grateful for the man or woman that you did marry, like you and your marriage, while you're flooded with this other false reality.
Yeah. So a couple things that you can do to help with that is maybe you just want to write down some of the things that you love about your spouse that will help you kind of recalibrate that lens. You see all these things on TV or on social media, but then if you just kind of take a step back and be like, what does my spouse do for me? And it could just be that they go to work and they bring home the income, and that's something that you love about them for your family. That's okay if it's a normal everyday thing that they're supposed to do. It could be something totally different. It could be that they make the bed, they're better at making the bed than you are, or something like that. Something totally simple.
I was to say, like, don't overthink that then. I mean, you can take the first step to show more appreciation, more love for your spouse, and just change something up so that you're not bored. And but don't overthink it and think it has to be this big magical change in your marriage to get out of this feeling of boredom. But the one listening to this, whether you listen to this with your spouse or not, like, you can make a difference. Something that I can't remember when you started doing this for me, Thomas, but it wasn't done before we started doing this podcast, so I don't know what made you start it. Maybe we're talking about appreciation, and he just thought of
you haven't told the story yet. No one knows what you're talking about.
What he does every morning is we wake up at the
Almost
same time.
every morning.
Yes, 98% of the time. I wake up and my coffee pot is on. So my Keurig.
I don't drink coffee.
Yes, no. So it's not for him. He slowly turns it on for me because he knows that I'm going to make coffee first thing in the morning. And like I said, that has not been around for 15 years of our marriage. That was something that he on his own started. We didn't have a conversation about it, but it's just like this one, like I said, just have a simple thing that you can show more appreciation, more love towards your spouse. And I've had to communicate that one little act makes me feel so special. And I have to remember not to take that for granted and to thank him for thinking of me each morning. But this morning, I didn't just walk down to the normal Keurig being on. Coffee was in my mug. It was hot. It was like he knew I was coming down the stairs, and I like started tearing up. Now I am pregnant, so I was a little bit extra, but I was like, wow, like you took it one more step, and that just made me feel so appreciated. And so that's why I'm saying, like, don't overthink it. Just do one little thing, and hopefully your spouse will recognize it. But if not, then just keep doing it or try something other little thing. And at the end of it, you won't be bored because you'll be doing new things.
Well, and it just takes one little thing to get the momentum rolling. And so if you do that one little thing, then your relationship can build on that, and it can evolve, and it can grow and get bigger and better. And you'll, before you know it, you'll be out of a feeling of boredom. So, yeah. Well, thanks so much for being here and tuning in with us. Let us know which one of these you're going to try. We'd love to hear about it this week. So you can go follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram at Marriage Puzzle. We'll be posting about this throughout the week, and comment and let us know what you're trying this week. And let us know if you got to listen to this with your spouse, or if you sent it to them after you listened to it. So we love to hear from you and hear what's going on in your relationships. You can always go and check us out on marriagepuzzle.com as well, and you can schedule a discovery call with us there for marriage coaching, 2-on-2 couples marriage coaching, and we would love to hear from you and work with you directly on that as well. But as always, we look forward to you joining us next week, where together we'll work on marriage one puzzle piece at a time. See you later.
Talk to you soon.